Very much. Good evening to our beloved guests and residents at home who are tuned in on our different social media platforms and radio stations, who are always with us every Wednesday on this show. Good evening to yourselves. I just want to first welcome all of us, everybody who has tuned in today. Ladies and gentlemen, to this weekly show known as The Talk with the Speaker of Council, as myself, Nhlaka Nedzamba, and I am the Speaker of Council.
Madam Speaker, you are muted. You've muted yourself.
Oh, all right. At what point did I mute myself?
You were introducing yourself as the Speaker of Council.
Okay, thank you very much. So I was then urging the followers to follow me on my own social media page, which is Nhlaka Nedzamba on Facebook and @speaker_COJ on Twitter, as we are live on these platforms. We are busy with our Youth Month series as we are now in Youth Month, and today is the 16th of June, which is the Youth Day, and our discussion for today looks at accelerating youth participation in local government through the Student Johannesburg Council. Before we get into it, ladies and gentlemen, let me take this opportunity to thank our host and partner, whom we missed so much last week, Dr. Fundile Nyati, for providing us with this platform. Let me also thank our radio partners, Josie FM, Eldos FM, Alex FM, Chai FM, and Pulse FM, who continue to support us in our endeavor to educate our communities on various topics relating to council business. And thank you to everyone who has joined in for today's engagement. Thank you for following us and thank you for participating on this platform. Fellow Joburgers, this day marks an important year on our calendar, known as June 16 or Youth Day. As we know, this day commemorates the Soweto Youth Uprising, a protest that was planned by the Soweto Student Representatives, SSRC, with support from the wider Black Consciousness Movement. These events were triggered by the oppression by the apartheid government, who introduced policies of inferior education, aptly known as Bantu education. And I'm sure that those who are of my age are a product of this kind of education, of the Bantu education. The protest would go on to become one of the most tragic yet pivotal protests in all South Africa's history. At least 176 Black students, many of them children. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 45 years after the Soweto uprising, and the young people of today continue with the struggle, albeit a struggle of a different kind. Young people face unemployment, social ills, they face teenage pregnancy, drug abuse, gender-based violence and femicide, and the struggle against fees, especially in institutions of higher learning, it continues. Ladies and gentlemen, as we work towards addressing these issues as government, unlike the government of oppression, we must bring young people along. We must plan alongside youth on issues affecting them. So we must work with them. And we believe that we need to start the process of engaging youth from a very early age, that is primarily at high school. This morning, the Chief Whip of Council spoke about the importance of changing the syllabus from the level of ECD until high school. If the participation of young people in local government is to be accelerated, young people need to understand how government works from an early age. Today's dialogue is the second in our youth series, and we look at how young people can participate in local government processes using the Johannesburg Student Council. I am very excited to host the alumni of the Student Council this evening. These are young people who were in the Johannesburg Student Council and have gone on to do amazing things with their lives. And they are back to share some of their experiences this evening. I will be engaging some of them tonight just to help viewers and listeners understand the Johannesburg Student Council more and the role it plays in individuals' lives. I am very honored to host a panel of young people today who come from various sectors of society. Some in politics, others in academia, and others are staunch activists and our student council student who will assist us to unpack this evening's topic. Ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by the Honorable Fasiha Hassan, who is the youngest member of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. You are most welcome, Honorable. We know that you are on the road. You are about to board. We really appreciate that you have joined. We are also joined by Mr. Matakanya, who is the General Secretary of the National Association of School Governing Bodies. We have Mr. Robimbali Mkonto, who is an author, an academic, and philanthropist. We are also joined by Walid Fraser, the Joburg Student Council alumni and qualified chartered accountant. We are very proud to have you today. Ladies and gentlemen, as they speak, they will introduce themselves. I didn't want to waste time and request them to show their faces as I welcome them. But as they will be speaking, they will show their faces so that our viewers can relate with them. To the panel, thank you very much for your presence, and you are very much welcome to this show this evening. Before I hand over, I'm not sure if Josie FM has joined yet.
They have, Madam Speaker.
They have, all right. Good evening. And before I hand over to Moshe, who is my co-host today, let me start with Miss Brenda Andrews, who is the manager of the Student Council. Miss Andrews, please briefly take us through what the Johannesburg Student Council is for those who might still not know how it works. How do young people or students get involved and the benefits? I know that they will be sharing their benefits, but just briefly take our viewers through. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Speaker of Council and Dr. Nyati. Thanks for allowing us this platform to engage with the youth. I'm always very excited to be in the company of youth as they are our leaders, our future leaders. So the JSC was an initiative by Councillor Nandi Maya Tulakoza in 2007 to create a platform for meaningful participation and engagement with the youth. The program seeks to engage young learners on matters of local governance and leadership, and ultimately to develop active citizens who will positively contribute not only to the development of their communities, but the development of the city. So how the recruitment works of the Joburg Student Council is that we really want to involve all the kids across the city. We recruit kids from government schools, private schools, former Model C schools, religious schools, and when we do have our meetings, it's really a melting pot of kids from different backgrounds and different cultures, and they really get together and get to learn from one another. I think that's the most important part and aspect of our meetings. Really, the reason why we needed to engage the youth is that I think, Speaker, you always say is that we need people to understand how government works, especially local government, so that when we do have protests and when we do have problems, They know how to actively engage. They're not going to be burning schools. They're not going to be burning libraries. They're not going to be burning councillors' homes. So we really want people that can engage and participate actively and positively. I'm excited because I think the alumni, especially Walid, is all the way in Amsterdam. He was one of our first cohorts of the program. And I'm not going to speak too much because I really want them to say what they've learned from the program thus far and how they've benefited as a result of their participation on the Student Council. I also want to thank all the alumni for availing themselves. I know most of them are still studying, so it's exams at the moment. So thank you so much, everyone, for participating tonight. And Speaker, I think I want to thank you for creating this platform. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ms. Andrews. Over to Mushe. Thank you very much. Over to Josie FM.
Thank you so much, Speaker. All right, we had a bit of a challenges. We thank Ms. Andrews, the manager of the Student Council in Johannesburg. I'm not sure if the MPL of Honorable Fasiha, she's part of the meeting, but if she is, maybe she can also just come in there when we start the conversation with her with regards to how young people need to understand the work that is done, as particularly in local government. We know that sometimes young people do not know even which wards they are under. They don't show much interest in that. So can she kindly please share with us the importance of to encourage democratic participation, awareness of school going age in the school system?
Evening, everyone. It's MPL Fasiha Hassan here. Thank you so much for that introduction. Sure, quite a lot of questions there. Look, I think we do have a general societal issue about a lack of participation, but also a lack of knowledge. So a lot of people think that it's only young people who don't know what ward they're in, or who their ward councillor is, or who the mayor is, or who the MMC of shared services or infrastructure, for example, is. But it's not just young people, right? You can pull a random person off the side of the street and they also wouldn't be able to answer those questions. And therefore it speaks to a much greater societal issue, right? And it speaks to how we do civic education. So one of the things, in as much as I don't ever advocate that the American education system should be looked at, but one of the interesting things that come out of that process, or at least from the curriculum or the syllabus, is that school-going kids have to do some element of civic education. So they're taught about the history of the country. They're taught about democracy. They're taught how to participate. And this is something that I really think we need to take on and put into our basic education curriculum. So it is about knowing who your ward councillor is, yes, but it's also about how do you leverage that. If a young person has a problem in society, or if they want to, assist their school, or they want to assist a particular club, or whatever it is, we need to give young people the skills and the ability to know who to go to actually petition for it, or write a proposal, or set up a meeting with the relevant MMC. So for me, it's not just about that knowledge. It's about how we empower young people and give them more agency and autonomy to actually decide what the outcome of their lives will look like. And I think that's something we don't do well enough as society, right? We always make decisions for young people, as if young people firstly don't know what's best for them, or secondly, that they're not able to make that decision. I think that's a really, really big conversation that we need to have. And in many ways, the JSC is a very interesting project that allows young people of a school-going age to really start interacting with those things. But is it happening at an early enough stage? I don't know. I think that there's a lot more we can do, even from a primary school level. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, MPL Fasiha Hassan.
If she can just show her face as she concludes, please, Mushe. And then we'll request all other panelists just to show your face, even if you just show your face and switch off your camera again, if your bandwidth is weak.
Madam Speaker, here's my face. I know it's not ideal, as I indicated a moment, but when I'm in a safe place, I'll put on my camera properly for everyone to see. But really, I think just closing remarks, Madam Speaker, young people really have agency, we have autonomy, and this idea of people making decisions for young even those of us school-going age, needs to end. We need to give young people the skills and the ability to make those decisions for themselves. And I'm quite sure that once we start doing that and people understand how systems work, you're also likely to see growing youth participation in stuff like local government elections, but also in our community meetings. How many times do we go to public participation meetings and there's almost no young people in the space? And I'm really hoping that this kind of intervention can change that for us. Thanks, Madam Speaker.
Thank you so much, Fasiha Hassan. There, she's the MPL in Gauteng. She just, Madam Speaker, wanted to. I wouldn't say. I wouldn't say Ubusobake there. All right. I'm gonna introduce Mr. Mkonto, and then after that, the speaker will talk to the other. Will introduce the other panelists. Mr. Mkonto, we heard the opening remarks from the two people that have already spoken now. But can you also start by introducing yourself to our Joseph and family members and others are joining the broadcast, but also unpacking the role of institutions of higher learning in expanding the Johannesburg Council for Accelerated Youth Participation in local government in particular?
Moshe, Mr. Mkonto is not in the meeting. Unfortunately, he sent us an apology. So perhaps if we can move on to the next question, or if we can pass on the question to somebody else who is on the panel.
There's anyone who's able to take that question on the panel? All right. I think we
perhaps we can skip it for now. Maybe we can move on to the
Mr.
next
Fraser. One. Yeah. Okay. We can go to Mr. Fraser. You can kindly introduce yourself and also share your experience of the Joburg Student Council as an alumni, and how will Johannesburg Student Council benefit the youth of the city of Johannesburg?
Thank you very, very much. Good evening, Madam Speaker. Good evening, fellow speakers, and to the House at large. As I was introduced, my name is Walid Fraser, and I am a qualified chartered accountant. But I think at this moment, more importantly, I am an alumni of the Johannesburg Student Council. I definitely think when this program was envisioned, my life and the trajectory my life has taken, my life was envisioned for this program, because everything that this program hopes and wants to achieve, I believe, has been achieved with my life. And maybe let me take you a step back to just give you a little bit of context to what I mean. I was raised in a township called Eldorado Park, raised by a single mother, but I had a very big interest in civic education. And I then got the opportunity to be part of the student council. I then got elected as an executive member in the council and got the most amazing opportunity to go to America. Now, this made a very big difference in my life because, number one, it has broadened my horizon. So imagine a 16-year-old boy who grew up in the dusty roads of Eldorado Park now gets to see and interact with other kids from Johannesburg. So my mind just expanded. The type of conversations that I had, it almost raised a different level of consciousness within me. Today, I find myself, as Brenda mentioned, today I find myself living and working in Amsterdam in one of Europe's largest asset managers. And I really believe what the previous councillor mentioned about giving young people agency and autonomy. But most importantly, it is about instilling a belief in young people that they can be whatever they want to be and whatever they choose to be. And I definitely think this is what the Student Council has allowed me to do. It has allowed me to dream beyond the realms of what I grew up with, and it allowed me to take on the world.
Thank you so much. On that note, Mr. Fraser, I hope a lot of young people could also emulate that and also see the importance of participating in as much as you have done. I'm not sure if Mr. Matakanye is part of the meeting from the school governing bodies, but we can also look at that particular question with regards to the benefit, rather, the expanding institution of higher learning. How does it help? I think MPL Fasiha maybe can take that question for us in terms of unpacking the role of institutions of higher learning in expanding the Johannesburg Student Council for accelerated youth participation, particularly when you look into local government.
Thanks. The higher education questions are always interesting ones for me because it really does speak to the role that higher education plays. So a lot of people think that we go to universities, we go to colleges, etc., only to walk out with a degree on paper. And for me, higher education and the experience of that development of young people goes beyond that. And I think perhaps it's because of my involvement in student politics and how I look at how it molded me as a young activist. I went to a school that did have some involvement with the JCC at the time, but I didn't really get involved in that space. And when I look at the role that higher education has to play, it shows you that there's a world beyond what you think. But it can only do that, I think, if you're open-minded to the space. So a lot of people only do certain activities because they believe it's extra credit or it's going to help the CV. And that's also a kind of thinking that we need to change. There's a lot of opportunity and a lot of things that we can do to learn and develop young people, particularly within the JSC and linking it to higher education. But we also need to be open-minded to that space. So for me, it's about the specific around the development, but it's also about actual content, right? So a lot of young people are into the JSC, but we need to be able to bridge that so that going into university or going into higher education, there's a bit of a safer landing area, if I were to put it that way. What does that mean for the types of skills that are going to be developed? Does that mean that someone from the JSC has a seat, for example, in student or university forum or student parliament? You know, even if it's just observatory status, because you want to give young people, particularly in something like the Joburg Student Council, an opportunity to see what happens on the other side. And somebody who was very involved in that space as a young person, I think I would have really appreciated learning about that and seeing that before I even got into university, so that it's something I could have identified I wanted to do or wanted to get involved in. But more importantly, what it does to develop a person beyond just getting a degree. It gives you leadership skills, it gives you team building skills, interpersonal skills. In fact, I'd wager everything that I've learned, of course, not the technical theory of my law degree, but beyond that, all of those things I learned in student politics. And that was because of the role in the space that higher education created in terms of democracy and in terms of those discussions around the SRC, which, as we know, ultimately led to fees must fall. So for me, there's no negative in having higher education play a role. But for me, it's like, how do we make it a puzzle piece that fits together? Thanks.
Thank you so much, MPL Fasiha Hassan, on that comment. I'm not sure if Tate Matakanye is part of the communication, maybe of the panel. I know he was supposed to have been part of it. I'm not sure if he's part of us.
Yes, he is.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Welcome. Maybe you can just tell us about maybe the work that is done by the National School Governing Bodies Association. What kind of work do you do there? And also looking at how you help as an entity to play a role in accelerating youth awareness and involvement in local government processes.
Thank you. Do you hear me, Moshe?
Yes, I can hear you say.
The speaker?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you, Mr. Matakai. You are audible.
You can proceed, Ramatakan. I think Ramatakan is having a bit of a good connection there.
Yes, do you hear me now, Moshe?
Yes, we can hear you, Ramatakan.
Yes. Then without really going back, we want to present a platform that will help our youth, the role of the school governing body in accelerating the youth awareness and participation of local government processes. The platform is called National Association of School Governing Bodies. And then the National Association of School Governing Body is a mouthpiece of all the school governing body in the country, but we are just zooming in the city. So it therefore means it is now a mouthpiece of all the school governing bodies in the city. Now, we have 5 programs, but I just want to zoom on 2 programs that will accelerate the awareness of our young people. The creation of conducive environment for quality education, that's one program. And the other one is the capacity building of school governing bodies. I'm saying this because the young people are accommodated in the school governing bodies by Act of Government of Parliament, South African School Act number 84 of 1996 as amended, that when school governing bodies are elected, we must also elect the young people in the school, and therefore those young people must also sit in the school governing bodies. They are therefore governors in the school. So then I'm just zooming in those two programs. But when we bring this young people into school governing bodies, the intention is to, together with them, create conducive environment for quality education. And then I think these two programs, capacity building of school governing bodies, creating a conducive environment for quality education, will link with the youth in the city student council, so that the work that has been done in the school is linked, is also extended at that level. But now, National Association of School Governing Bodies also has got structure. So we also have to link the student council with our structures from the school level up into the city. So then we have got the following structures. We have got 6 regions, and those regions, then we have got Altem, which is Alexander Tembisa, Inner City, and Midrand, Greater Soweto, Ekurhuleni East, Ekurhuleni West, Tshwane, Sedibeng. And these are, so within that district, I mean, within those regions, then we have got the 5 districts of the Department of Basic Education, Department of Gauteng Education. And then we have to link also those structures, the district with the structures that will also link to the city. Then we have got Central Johannesburg, which has 202 public schools, 29 independent schools. And I'll tell you why I'm bringing this. Also, we have got Johannesburg East, which has got 123 public schools, 131 independent schools. Then we have got Johannesburg North, which has 145 public schools and 85 independent schools. Johannesburg South, 102 public schools and then 1989 independent schools. Then we have got Johannesburg West, which has 100.
All right, it seems like we lost that connection with Re Matakanya.
8 public schools. The total number of the public school in the city is 700. And then the total number of the public school in the city, 373. So now, this participation, really we have to strengthen the existing participation of youth, the student council in the city. But now we have to broaden it. According to those districts that I've mentioned, as well as the regions of the National Association of School Governing Bodies, bring them together and see to it whether we cannot get the representative of those schools, which I think it could be ballooned to 700 plus 370, because we must not be seen excluding anyone, public or independent schools. And these are the youth of Johannesburg City. So then we have to bring those things. The total number of the schools that we have is 730 or 373 schools in total. Now, we feel that now, if we want these children to participate, then we have to bring in, we have to create the platform that will accommodate all schools. How, I don't know, but I feel that we have to accommodate all those 700, or if then we have got representatives of that 700 and 700, 300 and 7,000. I mean, no, 737 the schools in the city, so that every youth in the city is represented in the student city council. Then, but we have to link also school governing body, the city, the local councillors, SGBs, and everybody, and come up perhaps with a forum. Then I think we have to commend the city for the good work that they are doing, because it is in that light that we feel that the future lies in the youth. And if we don't activate these young people, then we may not have the future. But I think you are doing good work. It is just to come and support you. But these are the structures that we feel that now, maybe to maximize the participation of young people in the city, we have to bring in all those.
All right. Rema Takanye Matakanye.
And bring.
Yeah, we
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rema Takanye, for that comprehensive answer. We lost you a bit there with regards to connection. It's 2 minutes gone after the hour 7 o'clock right here on your number one dial. And we are continuing our conversation with the importance of young people participating in the local government sphere. I think I'm going to bring again Mr. Fraser into the platform. I just want him to just take us through some of your experiences that you have. Of course, you have shared a bit of it, but what are some of the examples that maybe students or young people can take this evening to say, this is how I can participate in the local government, and this is how I can advance the issues and the challenges that are faced by young people, particularly me being active as a young person in the local government. As an alumni, I know you have been part of this process, but how can we then attract young people or make this become of an interest to young people, for them to find it interesting to participate in local government?
Thank you very much. I think to aptly answer your question, I think it starts with consciousness. We first need to raise a higher level of consciousness within young people, because when we know better, we can do better. A lot of times young people, I think like the councillor mentioned, would like to get involved in projects, but they are just not educated enough. I remember the time when I was part of the student council. What happened was each portfolio every year was able to come up with a project. And basically, we were tasked with the challenge of creating a project throughout the year. And what this project allowed us to do, it allows us to engage with various members within the city. So obviously with our project, we needed help with a few things, and that obviously aided us in communicating with various people within the local government sphere. And through that, I learned about how various channels worked and process worked within local government. So I definitely think it really starts with civic education. And to answer your question about how we really can get young people involved, I think it is by driving conversations like this and facilitating platforms like this, where young people actually get to understand that local government is not as boring as everybody seems it to be. It's actually quite interesting, because local government affects your every single day life. And once young people understand that every part of the day-to-day life is affected by local government, I think that is when the interest will be piqued.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fraser, right here on your number one dial. 4 minutes gone after the hour 7. I will also try to bring back MPL Fasiha Hassan. I heard at the time she was saying that those young people, it's not only those school-going age young people that do not well know about their council or the mayor or so. There are those on the street you can just pick up on the street and they will tell you they don't know the mayor. And I think that will be a hindrance for them to participate in the process of local government. They wouldn't know much. But how do we then change that narrative as a young MPL? How would you encourage young people to get involved in this system? Because as Fraser was saying, that this is the most important sphere. It affects everyone in local government.
Yeah, I definitely agree. with Mr. Fraser that, local government in particular really is your everyday. It's your lights, it's your water, it's your drainage system, and even just your lived experience of how you go to school, how you go to work, etc. You come into contact with local government competencies all the time. So yes, I do think that there is often a mental block to the whole situation, which is one element. But I think it goes beyond that, right? I think it goes beyond it to people who just maybe don't understand how the system works. And in many ways, it's daunting for them, right? That's number one. So that's why I think this idea of civic education is particularly important. But number two, it goes even beyond that. It's also about how we relate to people. So often there's a big, let me say, gap or wedge between public representatives, between members of the executive and the public. How do we relate to people? All of a sudden, we're in big cars, we're in a situation where we don't necessarily walk with the or the masses, and immediately there's this gap and this distance created. What does that then do to the perception that people have of us? And automatically in that gap that's created, I think there's a huge problem there. That's not just because they don't know us, it's because they don't relate to us. And I think there's a huge, huge, huge part of our work as public representatives, particularly as young public representatives who have different thoughts around how we engage with young people. So that's I think one element. But beyond that and beyond the education, it's also really about how we sit down and we engage with our communities. Are we really giving communities the tools and the ability to actually hold us accountable? So we'll often go to public participation meetings and we'll find that a lot of people actually complain about things that have actually nothing to do with that particular department or that particular, level of government, whether it's like national. Honest truth is that if we don't give people the skills and the ability, and in some way, right, we don't necessarily want people to give us trouble. But in a very robust democracy, you have members of society and members of our community who actually get up and say, no, we disagree with how you interpreted this particular policy. We disagree with how you've decided to rule on this particular executive matter. And here's the research and the thinking behind why. And that's not something I think we see enough. So for me, it's a combination of things. It is most importantly how we relate to each other, and it's how we remove that gap. And it's about how we ensure that when we do get elected, we don't all of a sudden become different members of society. We remain community activists. We remain based in our society. And more importantly, we remain as a group of people who are active and who are listening. So like I said, it's a multi-pronged approach. And I don't think there is any perfect way, but I do think there are a lot of better things that we could be doing.
MPN, I want to know as well, as a young person, I don't know, what are your sentiments? We know there are a number of young people today, they will tell you about the issue of unemployment. They'll tell you that they are not going to participate in anything because they don't feel that the system accommodates them. How do we then work towards in convincing them otherwise to say, this is as you have said, it's an important system. The local government is crucial for everyone, your water services, your electricity and light and the likes. But those who feel demoralized, saying, I don't care, I don't think this will work for me. How do we then get that cohort to say, let's go and participate in this very important sphere?
That's a very big one. In Youth Month, it's also a very important conversation. Young people don't feel like the system is looking after them, and they don't feel like they're properly represented. This is partially because of structural youth unemployment. I don't know if all of our listeners, if they're well aware, but the latest details on unemployment, particularly youth unemployment, have come out. And what we've seen is a 46.3% narrow definition, which means there's a whole lot more young people. It's actually close to like 60 or 74% of young people who do not have a job and are unlikely to find a job in their lifetime. Now, this seems like a very small thing, but it's major. It's absolutely major, because this is the source of why young people don't feel like they're being represented. And it's why they feel so disillusioned with the system. So of course, it's multi-pronged and there's different issues involved, but this is really the bread and butter of the issues that young people face.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, phone is that one. All right, 10 minutes gone after the
Apologies,
hours.
I'm just going to mute.
All right, 10 minutes gone after the hour, 7 o'clock right here. We're still discussing the important role, the importance of the youth participation in local government. We are looking at how we can accelerate youth participation in local government through the Johannesburg Student Council. I think I'm going to bring Ms. Andrews here on this issue as well. I know that she's the manager of the Student Council, but I want to know, as those who are part of this council, how do we then channel them? How do we then make them become champions of going to communities, going to areas where they stay, to say local government is crucial and it's important to participate in, as they are, I believe they are champions when they are part of this student council, and also these schools that are getting involved in this. How do we then give the message for them not to neglect this very important aspect of the democracy?
Thanks for that opportunity. So I have mentioned before that we had quite a number of alumni here. And I think I'm just going to hand that question over to one of my alumni. I see Sabina is here. Perhaps she could assist in answering. So if she's not online, perhaps any of the other alumni could assist, because they have already initiated so many projects in their communities. It's always good to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Of course.
I'm not sure if Sabina, you with us? Maybe she's left. I see Jonty here. Leonora was a previous student council mayor as well. Or anyone else that's here. I think it is.
Could you just kindly repeat the question? I don't mind answering.
Okay, I just want to know that as a part of being part of this Johannesburg Student Council, how do you then champion the issue of participation of local government in these areas where you stay? I know there are schools that are involved, but what message is given out there for them not to neglect this important sphere of government, and also for them to also become champions of participating in it and getting other young people to participate in this sphere?
I think the real challenge here starts with our local government and its interaction with people, right? Yes, we are ambassadors. There's so much we can do, right, from our environment. So from a community perspective, if we're not going to have councillors who are actively going to communities, who are actively engaging, who actually even know who are the student council representatives in that exact ward, then you can't expect us to be in the forefront when the real representative from a municipality is not doing their job. But from a school perspective, I think with the projects that we do, right, as we are ambassadors of the city, we do have our own form of civic awareness that we extend, right? We do engage with students about what the municipality does. And with the projects that we do, for instance, when we have outreaches, which we do with the municipality, we do go back and give feedback to students. And with regards to active participation and citizenship, for instance, local government elections, we cannot facilitate the motivation of that because if you look at the age gap, it's high school kids who are between grade 8 and 12. And usually when a local government election happens, for instance, in 2016, I happened to be in matric. I took the initiative to go vote, but you cannot educate them and encourage them to go vote because most of the time when these elections happen, they're not of the right age to vote. So there's only so much we can do, but we do involve civic awareness in the projects that we do. And we do mention what the city does whenever we're given information from the city to pass down onto students. Hopefully that answers your question.
Jonty, I just want to also know what kind of challenges do you think or impediments that are there for young people, especially students? Is it because of lack of communication or lack of information, hence maybe they don't know much about it? And then how would you then change that narrative as a young person to say, of course, when you are not able to vote, you were able to vote then, but how do you then pass that message to those who are going to be able to vote? Maybe now we're going to the local government elections. How do we then encourage them to say, find information about the sphere, participate in this sphere, and this is the importance of you participating. You voted for the first time. Surely you were given the power to choose your leaders, hence they should do the same.
Yes, they should. Voter apathy in our country is not great at the moment. It's at an all-time low. Also, with what is currently coming across from media and news, it's not a good reflection of our government or our country, right? So we're sitting in a city, right, which comes across from one end functioning really well, but in reality, it's not. So it's kind of difficult as a young person to encourage another young person to say, hey, you've got this right to choose the leader who you want, be it your ward councillor, be it your mayor. But now the reality is that we cast the vote, but we don't see the impact. So it becomes, as young people, if we're not giving, firstly, access to information directly to young people. So when the municipality has projects, when it has initiatives, they should find a way of incorporating young people, because if we can, as a municipality, tackle youth unemployment, right? That's a starting basis. Then you're going to encourage youth to be interested in what's going on. If, as a municipality, we're going to push vegetable garden projects or community centers where we are giving people food because of they come from areas where unemployment is high or they're impoverished, right? That's how you can now get people involved and say to young people, guys, here's the platform. You have a municipality, right, which has direct impact in your daily life. Because I really think local government elections are very important, right? Yes, at a national level, policy is being done. But from a local level, if I don't vote the right administration in, or if I don't use my right to vote, then I cannot be complaining, right? If there's potholes, I cannot be complaining about service delivery. Because remember, the municipality delivery ranges from the water issue that we're currently facing, the electricity issue we're currently facing. And it means that as young people, we need to realize we've got the power to cast the vote, to put in the right leaders who can provide these services that we need for our essential daily lives. And in order for us to get young people interested, we need to give them value. That's the only way we'll get them into the voting stations. Because right now, it's almost like they are voting, but they're getting no value.
All right, Jonty, thank you so much for that answer. You saying they must be given value. I think maybe if family members would want to participate in our discussion this evening, 011-982-141, If you have any question that you want to pass to any of the panelists, we are looking at the issue of the accelerating participation of the young people or the youth in local government through the Johannesburg Student Council. I think I would like to bring back Tate Matakanye. I wanted to find out what are maybe some of the challenges that in your work you encounter in engaging maybe young people to participate in the local government sphere. Are there any challenges that you have come out with, especially when you work with the JSC, the Johannesburg Student Council? Matakanye.
Thank you very much, Moshe. Thank you very much, Moshe.
Yes.
Do you hear me? Moshe?
I can hear you say you can proceed.
Yes. I think we must look into the curriculum, because we are from the schooling community. Mm-hmm. And the objective of the curriculum is to achieve four things. One, knowledge, value, attitude, and skills. Now, you see, that's a process. Now, the unfortunate part in terms of what we are discussing, the context and the content. Let's look at the youth of 1976. What drove them to do what they did? Were the men behind, were the women, were the adults behind this young children at that time? Because the truth of we have to look at that and say, were they influenced or were they aware of what is really happening in terms of, you look at the curriculum as I'm talking, that they did not want to allow Africans to determine their future. And they said, no Africans, because maths was done in Afrikaans, English was done in Afrikaans, Northern Sotho was done in Afrikaans, everything was done in Afrikaans, and they refused and said, no. But I'm saying we have to look into that. We must not take local government processes as an event It must be seen as a process. Now, how do we build that process? We build that process in the schooling process or the schooling system. And my fellows, one of my fellow panelists spoke about the civic education. Do you pick up civic education in the street, or because we must not just look into question of service delivery and all those things. They must understand what is the purpose of having a local government process. I mean, a local government. What is the purpose? Then I think the question of service delivery is the outcome. Is the outcome of the process of the local government. So the challenges that we have is that these young people are just considered when people have problems, when people have challenges. We don't build the leadership within the schooling system, where now these children must be considered as the future leaders, as the leaders at that particular time. I think they are leaders in that school situation. So we must nurture their development, build together with their cognitive development, so that in future they know the process. And we can't just push now, go and vote, and they don't know what are they voting. Sometimes then we have got a problem of young people not wanting to vote because they don't know the purpose of the local, the purpose of the government, what the government could do for the people. I understand. Then those are the challenges. And if we can remove the challenges of undermining our youth, then we shall not have a problem as we are speaking. Because, like, let me give you an example of the school governing bodies. And I said earlier on, the law allows these young people to participate in that. But go to some of these schools and ask them, show me the school governing bodies. They will show you the parents, they will show you the teachers, they may show you support staff. And you tell them in high school, grade 8 to upwards, this is not a school governing body. This is something next to a school governing body. A school governing body in the high school, it must include young people. Now, some of them are surprised. So it's a question of mindset. So if we really want to build a sustainable process of local government, let's look into this. I mean, question of councillors as well. They don't even know the schools that are in their area. They don't even know them. They don't even visit them. I mean, the question of service delivery. When we talk about service delivery, then we are looking at the councillors, those people, because they are next. It's the government next to the people. Then those are the people. We don't even know them, but we don't even know their work and all those. So we are saying let's include this thing so that it must be no more a challenge, a problem, because a problem is that this thing of the local government comes as an event, not as a process. So that is the challenge, the bigger challenge, that, and also undermining the young people to recognize that now these people, we must develop their cognitive and also recognize that these are future leaders.
Can I intervene?
All right.
May I
I'm looking at the time. Yes, Speaker.
No, I was just intervening that I wish we could extend time, but we don't have much time, and we also want to involve our viewers and listeners. We would also want to hear from them, their questions and comments. Thank you very much, Moshe.
All right, I think Nhlaka will take us on the comments that are on social media platform.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Moshe. There's quite a few. I'm going to try and get through them as quickly as I can in the interest of time. The first one is, how can we get involved in the Student Council? That's Latoya Roots. Keith Lufuya says the JSC is a great concept, but more awareness needs to be done. There's one that says, how is the Johannesburg Student Council planning on expanding this concept to students who are not in affluent areas but are in township areas. Makwela Silwane says the Johannesburg Student Council should be expanded to universities, as this is where many young people are coming of age and begin to take an interest in the SRC and student politics. Tandiwe Luruli says, yes, the school governing body is a key stakeholder to bring on board to expand the JSC. Can the manager of the JSC please expand how the JSC actually works? Mkululi Dali says, Madam Speaker, thank you for such an interesting topics every week. We are learning so much. I agree with the SGB. You definitely need more support. Amahle Norma says, I am starting to believe that the Johannesburg Student Council must start from primary school level, as this is a great concept and more young people need to get involved. Speaker, please also have the JSC from primary school, at least grade 7 or so. Shengiwe says, what can we do to strengthen our youth to be better and active citizens in the Johannesburg Student Council? Nhlaka says, I'm so disappointed in our generation today of youth. They're not that active in fruitful programs provided by the speaker or the council. What more can be done for our youth to listen to such programs? Because surely Madam Speaker has opened an educational platform. Thank you, Speaker, and your team. David says, can we please see more youth on the ground mobilizing such programs in which are discussed by Hassan? Can the youth please be united? Lerato says, may we please have a grade 7 and 8 student council debate? This will help grade 7 students who are proceeding to high school to be more educated about the next level of their lives. When they arrive in high school, they have been prepared ahead of time. Bongani from Ezola says, thank you, Madam Speaker, and Josie FM and other radio stations. You have changed my listening of radio from music to every Wednesday show at Josie FM hosted by the Speaker of Council. I don't miss a show of this educational platform. Please keep it up, and we want more of these shows. Then there's one to the SGB. When will the school upgrade its educational system? Meaning most of my subjects in what I learn in history and English novels are European. On this June 16 basis, knowing about Mandela, I don't even know who other great leaders of the youthful struggle are. Can we have more of our local history than Europe? We've just got a lot of comments, Madam Speaker. I'm going to leave it there for now. I mean, I'll make an example. Nomoya Mbogo Dombisi Nisi says, we are here, Madam Speaker. Yeah, and there's just a lot of other positive comments as well. Let me leave it here. Thank you.
All right. I think I can also squeeze in a Josephine family member who would want to also be part of this. You're live on radio?
Yeah.
Good evening. Yes, Mollo.
No, I just want to comment about the SGB.
Mm-hmm.
Is it correct for the SGB rep to say that there's no transformation in schools? Because they are the people that are keeping the students to participate in the SRCs and in the SGB. So it cannot be correct for us to be listening to a person that does not even visit the same schools that he wants the government to go and visit. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't visit those schools themselves.
Yeah, Retaps, I think your point is being heard. Thank you so much for participating. All right, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mushe, and thank you very much to our viewers, and thank you very much to our panelists. We are almost at the end of our show, but I just want to express my excitement on this debate, especially the testimonies that were given by our panelists. Mr. Fraser, wow, I'm so excited. From Johannesburg, dusty streets of El Dorado Park, all the way to Amsterdam, being a chartered accountant, as the former JSC participant. We have many of them on the platform, Mushe. We also have Mami Kiri Litswalo, who is doing the 5th year on Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery at the Stellenbosch University. We have Linda, who is doing 4th year on biomedical students, who is a biomedical student at Wits University. We have Jonty. Jonty, I think he has spoken, he participated. We have a number of them, and we are very proud of them because they are our alumni and they are from Johannesburg Student Council. They have learned a lot. You know, if we had more time, we would have listened to all their testimonies to motivate and encourage our students who are in the program in this term. Thank you very much. As we are closing off our discussion, I'm not sure if Dr. Nyati would want to have 2 seconds of the words of wisdom to the young people who have joined us today, Dr. Nyati, and those who are still to join, because we are recruiting from all the schools.
Yes, no, thank you, Madam Speaker. All I need to say is that it's their time. They need to optimize all the opportunities that are available to them. It's something that wasn't there in 1976. 45 years later, they have got all the opportunities. So the saying that they must really go out there and make things happen. It's not always easy, but the opportunities are much better now than they were a long time ago. So we encourage more young people to get involved in civic matters, and also it helps them to grow.
Thank you very much, Doc. Thank you very much to all our viewers, to all our listeners, those who have joined in different platforms. Thank you very much. And to our panelists, thank you for a powerful session. To our youthful guests and listeners at home who took the time to watch and listen, thank you for your engagement on different social media platforms, as I said. To the radio stations who have partnered with the city of Johannesburg, thank you very much, and thank you very much for broadcasting, and those radio stations who will be broadcasting this engagement tomorrow. Thank you so much. This consultation, ladies and gentlemen, is crucial for local government process, and we will do more and more of them in the near future. You've heard our people who were saying they are thirsty for such civic education. That is why every Wednesday we do this civic education. But in the month of June, we will just be talking to young people about young people with young people. With that said, the student of 1976 efforts resulted in international pressure and sanctions against the South African government to make changes to its educational policies. We follow in the footsteps and we endeavor to increase involvement in youth to ensure that nothing is done for youth without youth. Nothing for you without you. With that said, we shall meet again next week, Wednesday, 6:30 sharp. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. We will have another important topic engagement next week. Please join us. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
All right, that's where we leave it for this week with the Speaker of Council looking at that important topic of youth participation in local government. We'll pick up the conversation next week again as we continue as Ilunga Lomdeno Joseph Msia. Thank you so much for the support, for continuously tuning in to listen to this important program. 25 minutes just before the hour 8 o'clock, we'll be looking at some of the stories as the speech that was delivered by the President of the country as we mark the 45th anniversary of the youth uprisings. We'll do so in just no time, and we'll continue. Just stay tuned.
Lerato ke a botsosela hobane bophelo ba ka ba marato bo maemong a hodimo. Ke tlohetse ho reka sehlahiswa se tsosolosang bonna ba monna wa ka e sa le ke fumana ka Event Manpower, ebile ke kgona le ho kgotsofatswa ke monna wa